Soon the evidence will be on the playing field. There will be no more predictions, no more, well, there will be debate, but not necessarily relying on prognostication for transfer portal classes and quarterbacks unseen. We will be able to evaluate evidence. But what fun is that before the season starts? This is the College Game Day podcast. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel with you. This our college football playoff edition, headed toward year 3 of the 12-team playoff. We'll go over some of the subtle differences and who will make up the field this year. But these predictions, these prognostications, so much time and effort and energy is placed in evaluating these teams and trying to figure out who is best suited to pursue a national championship. And Dan brought this to my attention. If you look at the 12-team field, and obviously simple math, 24 teams have made it, one would think that a high percentage of those teams were highly ranked in the preseason. As it turns out, if you use the preseason top 10 from the AP poll, for instance, Dan, they're batting about 500 in terms of making the field.
Yeah, we're not good at this. We're not good at this. AP voters, coaches poll voters, anybody. If you take a look at this, so 2 years ago in 2024, 4 of the preseason top 10 in the AP poll did not make the playoffs. Alabama, Ole Miss, Michigan, and Florida State. Ohio State ended up winning the national championship as the 8th seed, beating Notre Dame, which was the 7th seed, right? Are you not entertained? This is it. It's wide open. Last year, even worse. 5 of the top preseason AP top 10, including 4 of the top 6, didn't make it. Number 1, Texas. Number 2, Penn State. Number 4, Clemson. Number 6, Notre Dame. Not in the field. Also number 9, LSU. LSU and Penn State both fired their coaches. The championship
by November 1st, too.
By November 1st. Championship ones are Indiana, which isn't in the top 10. Didn't even have them in there. And probably the most compelling player in the season. I wouldn't say compelling. Fernando Mendoza was probably most. But one of the biggest impacts was Trinidad Chambliss, who was at Ole Miss, who in the top 10, and wasn't even the starter, and no one outside of Big Rapids, Michigan, had ever seen play. So,
Michigan bias, Dan. You always bring this Michigan. Your GLIAC bias shines through on this pod.
Great D2 football.
Doesn't ESPN get enough criticism for its GLAC, Great Lakes Athletic Conference bias? Or are you just going to pour it on us?
Great Third Coast bias. Right? Great Lakes. Big Rapids, when those big media markets like Big Rapids, Michigan just get all the attention, gobble it all up. No, the sport is flat at the top. Now, it is not flat all the way through. Okay, I understand the frustrations of some people going, how the heck are we ever going to beat Texas? Well, how the heck were you going to beat them last year? And they did. So, but we don't know. Nobody knows. That's what makes it so much fun, that you could be that wrong. So in the last 2 years, 20 teams were ranked in the preseason top 10, and only 11 of them even made the playoff. Pretty good.
The beauty of this sport to me is that every year we trick ourselves into believing what we've learned in the offseason, right? Eventually, you're like, oh, Texas is going to be great, Oregon, and then with these things become facts in our minds because we talk about it for so long. And then when week 1, week 2, week 3, these notions are blown to smithereens, right? As we stood there in our white suits at Penn State last year, Rece, and watched that one get blown to smithereens, we act shocked. And it is, as Dan said, the inherent beauty of this sport is chaos. I would argue that there was more chaos from the ether before. You could have Hawaii kind of pop up and make the sugar, but I don't know if we're going to have that type of chaos because of the economics we're here with Nobel Prize winner Dan Wetzel, collegiate sport economic Nobel Prize winner. So I don't think the economics of the modern sport, Dan, not to just tread on your expertise, bid well for the group of 6 and others. But what they do bid well for are the places that are invested 20, 25 plus million, and they make it super hyper competitive, but it is also still all based on 18 to 22-year-olds who are inherently unreliable and often not great at football. And that is why we love it, because there are boneheaded mistakes, critical errors, lots of penalties, like all the things we don't think about in the offseason, but those are all very real part of this sport we love. And yeah, I picked Penn State to win the national title last year, right? So this is all an exercise in mockery. I think Rece picked Clemson, so I see him smiling, almost like, I remember you. I don't know whose call is dumber, but we're in the same neighborhood.
Yeah. I'm going to say yours. Your coach got fired. Mine didn't.
That's fair. Yeah, no, it was bad.
No, they were actually both good picks based on what you knew at the time.
Penn State had 10 guys drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that usually gets you to the playoff.
It usually works.
Yeah. Drew Aller got hurt. Now Drew Aller's dealing in the preseason. Come on. Where was it against the Ducks, Drew? Let's go.
And that game really turned the course of their season. I mean, they followed it up with some embarrassing losses, made the coaching change, and now everybody's getting the fresh start. Now, there are some changes this year, and I think most people know this, but let's just go over briefly how the field will be selected or who will make up the field, just subtle differences. You know, it used to be the 5 highest ranked conference champions got automatic bids. For this year, the Power 4 conferences, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC champions, they're in no matter where they're ranked. And there have been some adjustments to the tie-breaking procedure because of the number of teams in the conference to do what they can to try to keep Duke from winning the ACC, which they did last year because they won a convoluted tiebreaker. And look, they deserve to be the conference champions because they won what was designed to be an objective tiebreaker. And it got messed up and the best team didn't get in the conference championship game. Most of the conferences have made provisions, adjustments, doing their best, barring unforeseen circumstances, to alleviate that type of thing. So you're going to have 4 conference champions from the Power 4 conferences that are in. The next automatic spot goes to the highest ranked team from the group of 6. That is not the highest ranked conference champion. The highest ranked team may be a conference champion, doesn't have to be. And the other one is that Notre Dame gets in and they're in the top 12. This one causes a great deal of consternation and controversy, and you can call me a Notre Dame defender, a Notre Dame homer, as long as Notre Dame plays a representative schedule with the number of power conference opponents that they typically play. I don't have a problem with this in the top 12. I just don't. Number one, if they win enough games, they're going to be there anyway, so they probably don't need the guaranteed bid. There will probably be a year where this blows up on me saying this, and there will be controversial on some level. Notre Dame's schedule, generally speaking, most years has enough on it where if they're going to be a big part of this, if they're going to be involved financially and everybody else has a provision, I don't really have a big problem with them having a provision. And I realize people are going to hate the fact that I feel that way about it.
They will. They will.
Do you?
Yep. Yes, they will. I don't love Notre Dame's little carve out, but it's not that big of a deal. It's sort of one of those things that I think, to your point, isn't going to be an issue in general. And so let's say a year ago they had gotten that bonus in, which they would have. That was a really good team that could have won the national title, I think, the way they're playing. I just don't like a specific carve-out for Notre Dame. I think you don't play in a conference. There's many advantages to not playing in the conference, and if there are some negatives to it. So I'm not a fan of that. But I'm not gonna die in the hill. The other stuff I do like, and overarchingly, just want to say this playoff is entering its 3rd season. And before they even played one, they wanted to change it. And they spent all their time saying there's this problem and this problem. We're tinkering with the unexpected. Nobody would have predicted that James Madison would have become the second G5 to get in a year ago, now G6. So we no offense to the Dukes, we don't really want that. And it hurt the first round. And so you tinker with the system. We do not need to blow this thing up. Let it cook. Let's see. And I still believe 12 is the perfect balance between an absolutely phenomenal postseason tournament. As I said, 7 and 8 played for the title 2 years ago. Number 1 and number 10 played for it last year. It's a wide open field. It's very exciting. And you maintain a regular season that matters. Like last year's opening weekend, Miami defeated Notre Dame. Miami got in. Notre Dame didn't. Every week still matters. So I think we have that perfect balance. Let's continue to work on the edges instead of just going crazy over small things and saying, that's it. We can't do this. Let's just let 24, 48 in and let's just destroy it. No games are going to matter for the first 2 months of the season.
So you look at the rest of the field then, and outside of that, it will be solely determined by how the College Football Playoffs Selection Committee ranks the teams. Also, the seeding will be solely determined by the rankings. It's not going to be like the first year it was the 4 highest ranked conference champions got the byes. It's not that. It's 1 through 4, which will be the second year of doing it that way. So, Pete, with all of these things in mind, you got to win 3 games or 4 games depending on getting the bye. How many teams do you see right now that you think are good enough as we go into this in the preseason to win 3 or 4 games and win the national championship? Because it's one thing to be a playoff contender. It's another to win the championship. Understanding, court stipulating, if your quarterback gets injured, it changes things. I got that. If everybody stays healthy, how many teams do you think are capable of winning it all?
Well, and I think this syncs up with Dan's core argument here that 12 is a really good number. And I'm not convicted on playoff format or size, but I do think this has really struck a good. Now we're 2 years deep into this thing, right? I do think it's really struck a powerful balance with the regular season. And as we talk 24, and that conversation is probably for another podcast, right? But I do think that the equilibrium of how the regular season swings in a 24-team playoff is something that really needs to be vetted and looked through. I'm not saying it'll ruin it, and it feels like we're probably going to get there, right? That's a feeling. I'm not reporting that, but it just feels like there's the forces of the sport are pushing it there. But I just, and again, what's your saying, Rece? Every time you get something, you give something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a cost associated with
Correct.
all of this, and
Yes.
no one seems to want to evaluate the cost. There are benefits to this, Pete. I mean, and I'm not going to take us off on the 2014 rabbit hole. I've called it patently absurd. I stand by that. It's way too much. Will the games, once we get to the 24, be fun? Yeah, I'm going to watch them and love them. They'll be great. But for the benefit that you give the mid-tier game and assign quote unquote meaning, meaning playoff meaning to mid-level games, you by definition take something away from the other ones. And it's something that college football is the only regular season that has that. So to borrow your equilibrium phrase, where is equilibrium for that? Maybe you do have to give up a little. We already have. I mean, Ohio State lost massive games and still rebounded, to win the national championship. Miami, didn't get into its conference championship game, yet came a drive away from winning the national championship. So there's a balance there, but how much is too much? That's my only saying. And I see Dan and I are completely aligned on this. I like 12. It's hit the right number, and it gives you enough. It gives you enough of a second chance without watering it down so much so that nothing feels really big until you get to the playoffs.
Here's my wish, guys. I'm not as convicted on field size as you are. I'm totally fine with 12, by the way. They could run 12 for a long time, and I think the sport would stay really healthy. I just think these people need to make a decision, right? The college football fans know what the playoff is. The people who are reading Phil Steele and probably listen to this podcast, they're very fluent in that. What college football is attempting to do is capture casual fans. And if you walk down the street in Boston and ask like a normal fan or, LA, Seattle, pick a random big city in America, said, hey, how big is the college football playoff field? I don't think the average American knows the answer. right? So I just think whatever they need to do it, be convicted on it, and stick with it for a while, because it's whack-a-mole now. It's just like, oh, this happened. Oh, wait, they got left out. Let's change this. This is just, and that is an unhealthy pattern. And that is the sign of a sport that really doesn't have anyone in charge, right? Because if there was someone in charge, they would have thought holistically about all this. So whatever it is, there needs to be consistency to build a model out. And if that's a 12, great. If it's bigger, so be it. But that is, I think, damaging the sport more than anything, is just the inconsistency. Now, look, the sport's changed wildly since they decided to go to 12. I get it. But I just think the leaders of the sport need to sit around and say, okay, let's link arms and push a path forward, and everybody, and do it for a while, and settle in.
That is something that has not changed about college football, is taking an unintended consequence of an earlier decision and overreacting and changing it. It undermined the credibility of the BCS to the extent that some people wrote wildly successful and popular and insightful books about it.
About its murder?
Yeah.
You wanted to murder the BCS?
Murder the BCS, Dan Wetzel.
Death to the BCS. There was it didn't.
Famine and pestilence, fine. No murder.
Was not determined.
Poor Bill Hancock stands over with like a sickle.
nicest man in the world.
Couldn't be nicer. Yeah. Couldn't be nicer.
One time I spoke at this convention of ADs and down in Orlando. I think it was AD, a whole bunch of administrators, and I was on this panel about the BCS, and someone goes, "Anybody in here raise their hand if they're sad that the BCS goes away?" And nobody raised their hand except me. I was like, I'm making a mint off this thing. Are you kidding me? Keep writing books about how dumb it is.
Keep screwing it up, guys. Wetzel girls need to go to college.
Sometimes nobody's in charge, right? So there's a part of the NFL that has this, okay, if you win your win your division in the NFL, you get to host a first round playoff game, which often will make no sense because the wild card, sometimes you got an 9-8 team now. Now they're 17 games, but 9-8 team wins the, AFC South, and there's a 13-4 wild card team, and you go, that's not right. And the NFL goes, we don't care. That's how we do it. Shut up. And it lasts like 2 segments on Get Up, and then it's over, and that's it. And in college football, we have nobody in charge to say, what? I'm not listening to you. They don't even get to a statement from Roger Goodell. It's just like, what? It's deaf ears. Instead, we got to have this panel, that. And nobody is out for the good of the sport. They're out for the good of themselves. So it's just, I want 24 because I want 24. I want this, I want that. And they straw man the committee. The committee does the best job they can. I think they do a fine job. Is there going to be an argument at the end? There always will be. Someone's got to make a call. But if you just sit there and say, this is what we're doing for the next 5 years, they also, to your point, Pete, everything's changed. It's still changing. This should be the last thing we put in place. Okay. They're sitting in front of Congress trying to get bills passed that could wildly alter how this sport is competed and played for. And we don't know which way it's going because we don't know what's going to be in the bill, let alone if it could even pass. And yet they're like, but let's lock in this, because we think it works for what we have right now when everything is static. So just calm down with your 24 for a little while, okay? Just please. 12. Thank you. Commissioner Sankey, dear leader, he is holding the line on this, and we appreciate him for that.
We were recording an earlier edition of the podcast, and things were changing in the middle of it. The 10th Circuit granted the stay in the NCAA's favor while we were recording a podcast, I think previewing the Big 12. It was like, oh, well, this could change things. I immediately asked Pete, does this mean Indiana loses 2 people out of the front 7 that they just got? And he was like, so maybe.
Yeah, and I did not go to law school. I went to Syracuse, where they really only teach you journalism. And I just needed a minute to gather my thoughts. So my understanding, Rece, and certainly by the time people listen to this will be settled, would be that Stephen Daly and Wyatt would have to
Kellen Wyatt,
would have to both get local injunctions, which, quite frankly, there's got to be a friendly judge in Bloomington, right? One of Bob Knight's old hunting buddies like shows up, bangs the gavel, and gets it done. But I mean, talk about just a mockery of how to run a sport right now. And I'm not saying this is anyone's fault, but it like literally like there will be no bigger determination of college football on the macro this year than your ability to find a friendly local judge. Yeah. Right. And it starts in Mississippi with our 93-minute friend there, Judge Whitewell, but also now, like, these guys, okay, you want to come back? And they agreed to contracts. Mississippi State can come back. Arizona had a couple guys back. And there's an argument they could come back, like they'd be getting the fifth year. Like, it's the legal argument is perfectly, sound. And so now, like, I actually just got a text from a coach. I got a fifth-year kid. Do you know a lawsuit he can join? Like that's an actual text from a sitting football. Like, while we're sitting here taping the pod, and it's like that's where we are right now. And it's completely bonkers, just in general, just completely bonkers.
Good thing that we have the sanity of the playoff structure.
Yes,
to get us back on track. So I don't think you ever. How many teams, Pete, can win it all? Not make the field, win it all. How many do you have in there? That
was one of my all-time diversions, huh? Just a 15-minute sinkhole there.
He didn't want to. Yeah, he didn't want to answer that.
I think about 15, I would say. If I had to.
But there are only 12 teams in the field.
Correct. Yeah. And that's good. That means good teams are going to make the playoff. And that happens, right? That happens. So I'd say could go win the playoff. Like, Notre Dame could have won the playoff last year, right? I think we all could sit here with a straight face and say that. They played Miami to a one-score game. We played Indiana to a one-score. So yes, I think there will be, if we go, I'm going to go 4 SEC teams in the playoff and 3 Big Ten teams in the playoff, right?
Okay.
So say I leave out USC and Penn State. We'll see, right? There's some variables there, but are they good enough to win 3 of those games? I think so, right? You win beat 3 top 15 teams, even if you stub your toe on the road, travel, all that stuff as it goes. I think there's at least 4 or 5 from the from the SEC. I think Texas Tech's good enough. I think Notre Dame's good enough. I think Miami's good enough. Like, there's enough. I wish there was a G6 team good enough. Gosh, that would be fun. That would be, Dan could write another version of, we're just going to promote Dan's books today. Glory Road, the UTEP. Like, I wish there was like a UTEP-ish school sitting out there. Even if it was UTEP, that'd be great too for Scotty Walden as they attack the Mountain West this year.
I think there are like 15 teams, 15 to 18 who could make the playoff. Dan, I would cut that. I'd cut Pete's number in half. The teams that I actually think could win 3 games against this level of competition. Because let me tell you what I mean by this, and because podcasts are made for irritating people. Notre Dame could have won the national championship last year. I'm convicted about that. They were good enough to do so, but their resume, it was not egregious that they were left out based on resume and what they did head to head. There were teams ranked ahead of them in that field that had no chance to win 3 games. And that wasn't just the then G5 teams. That also, in my judgment, included Oklahoma and Alabama, right, who played each other. They weren't winning the national championship. So that's where I'm getting at. Who's good enough within the field? They're probably 15, 18, maybe even more good enough to fight their way into the playoff. But once they get there, who's good enough to win 3, maybe 4 games against that level of competition?
Right. So I think that's an interesting part. So I would I agree with you. And I would say something like, I think Oklahoma will make the playoff. I don't know whether they have enough to win it. Or let's say Texas Tech is going to make the playoff. I think every field should probably have Texas Tech. They're the favorite of the Big 12. I don't know they have enough to win the playoff. 2 teams that I might have on the outside, and I don't really believe in, and there's a pretty good chance they could be 8-4, but I think could put it together. USC and Michigan could, we don't know what the team's going to look like. So let's take Michigan. If Bryce Underwood all of a sudden starts playing like the Bryce Underwood #1 recruit in America and plays, and that offensive line gels, and they got a heck of a running attack, and somebody pops up on that defense is good. Does Michigan have the talent and the coaching to put together this team in one spot, bang, and win a national title? Sure. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't think they'll even make the playoff, but it wouldn't stun me. At the same time, I would put other teams there's a really good chance this team makes the the playoff because they can hit this level. I got a higher belief that they'll hit this level, but maybe not. Boom. USC's the same way. I think there's stuff there. Alabama, I'm looking at the AP top 25 here. Alabama is ranked ahead of USC and Michigan, right? And I think that's fine, but I don't think they have the ceiling of USC and Michigan. So that's where I think when you get to who could actually win it, I might give it 10 or 12. Like certainly Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas, Indiana, Miami. Does Texas A&M have enough? I don't know. They'd have to show me. They're right now they're 8th. They'd have to show me they could win a national title. No, I'm not sure. Ole Miss, yeah. Oklahoma, I really like the Sooners. I think I picked them to win the SEC. I don't know if John Mateer, like I got to see more. Texas Tech should win the Big 12. Very dangerous team, but I think they win a playoff game. Alabama, no. BYU, and I don't think they got enough to win it all. Now we're at SC and Michigan. Yeah, I think they might. Washington, no. So I think that's your issue here. Like there's what can win it and what can get in the playoff are two a little bit different things.
It's a great point, and I think the beauty of this sport, especially in this era, is there's just so much unknown. Like we have no idea how good Keelan Russell is going to be for Alabama, right? Like if he is what he's projected to be out of high school and what the buzz is out of Alabama camp, because I don't have Alabama in my playoff. I believe in their defense. I think their secondary is salty, and the buzz in camp about their front four, especially the two interior defensive linemen, is loud. They feel like they brought in Tompkins from USC, and they brought, I think, Green from Oregon, Rece. Is that right?
Mm-hmm,
yeah, they feel like those guys are like NFL starting level guys. And they feel like this is the best Bama D-line in the last 6-7 years. So you take that kind of defense, not quite Saban-y, but closer and in elite personnel-wise, and you have a dynamic offense. All of a sudden, Keelan Russell. We know Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb know what to do when they have a dynamic quarterback, right? So there'll be growing pains and everything. But Mateer, we don't know enough about yet, right? And you kind of go through these teams. I agree, Dan, on Michigan. I feel like Michigan will lead power conference schools in rushing this year at the very baseline. Between the talented backs they have and Bryce Underwood in the zone read run game, Kyle Whittingham is the quintessential high floor coach, right? Mm-hmm. You are not going to dip. Do they have enough to push through? Do they have skill on the outside? We'll see as it comes, and that's why they're a fringe playoff team. But I do agree, like there's a chance. I mean, they can just go out and slug some people like Kyle did for years. Win some Big Ten games we might not expect them to in August. And I think that's what makes the sport great is that it has become a really fun meritocracy at this Power 4 level for, 80% of the teams, they kind of feel like there's not 80%, but there's a high percentage of teams that have a swing at chance.
Just real quick, Indiana was 20th in this poll last year. 20th. Mm-hmm. They went 16-0.
Yeah.
So, good. So Tennessee's 20th. Anything can happen if you put it all together. And I think that's what's exciting is there's a lot of teams. The old days would go into the season 14 playoff. There'd be like three teams. And you'd be like, okay, I got Bama, LSU, and Clemson. And then, Ohio State probably make it. But if not, it's just now we've got all these teams where we can legitimately make a case for 16th ranked Michigan to put it all together and win the national title. I don't know. So I think it's an exciting time for this sport.
I agree. On the preseason polls, as the great Auburn coach Pat Dye used to say, hindsight is 50-50. But you look back at where we were this time a year ago with Indiana. And Indiana was changing quarterbacks. And even if you were high on Mendoza, you looked at them and said, well, okay, they played two high-level playoff caliber teams the previous season, Cignetti's first year, and they got whooped both times, and including in the first round of the playoff. So I don't think it was unreasonable to have them there. They were capable of proving everyone wrong, which they did. There are teams that will get to do that now. As I look at this field that I've put together, there are, I would say, 8 teams that I'm convicted will be in the playoff. Some varying degrees of certainty, but 8 teams that I would say I'm convicted. There would be Notre Dame, Georgia, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, Texas, and Texas Tech. Now, of that group, even though I've got great affinity and respect for Texas Tech, I don't think Texas Tech has enough to win the national championship. The others, yeah, maybe so. So I'm landing on 7 that I think are good enough to win it, barring injury and all of that kind of thing. And then, Pete, to your point, I've got 4 Big Ten teams in the field, 3 SEC, 2 from the Big 12, Notre Dame, 1 from the ACC, and a group of 16. So SEC had 5 last year, right?
Yeah, they did.
I've got them with 3. I think when we get to that final day, if I'm making the prediction right now, that there will be, I've got 6 teams potentially in the mix, most likely to be in the mix, and 2 spots remaining in my bracket. Those 6 teams: Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Alabama, BYU, and SMU. And just filling out in the preseason, the 2 I chose were Ole Miss and BYU, largely because you have some quarterback certainty there. I think BYU is going to be really good. BYU wasn't far off from making the playoff last year. They lost 2 games, both to Texas Tech, who was a champion and playoff team. So that's not going to be popular. Dan and I were both on the same radio show at different times in Huntsville, Alabama last week, and they started calling me Mr. Big Ten Dan. What do you think about that?
Wow. Yeah.
This podcast has a GLAC bias, Great Lakes Athletic Conference bias. We can't have your Big Ten bias here. It's the true north, Rece, is our bias, just not the Big Ten offices in suburban Chicago. The bias is for Trinidad Chambliss and Mason McKenzie, who's going to start for BC after transferring from Saginaw State. That's where our bias is. It's in the GLAC.
Grand Valley, Saginaw Valley,
yep,
Wayne State, Ferris. It's all right there. Northern Michigan. What else you really need but some D2 Michigan football? Remember, they got 5 SEC teams, and then the SEC all the coaches spent all their time complaining that we've got to make sure the committee properly evaluates our league.
Almost half the field.
Yeah, I think you did. Like, I swear, the straw men on this committee is straw men and women on the committee, I guess. I have 5 SECs again, but the end is just brutally hard to pick. I have LSU and Ole Miss making this thing. Probably not. I'd have to go back through every schedule bit. It's just it's tricky. But again, what I would go back to is at the top. Who knows? If we miss 1, 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 4 again, Notre Dame might. I'm missing some good teams. I have Notre Dame as the number 1 seed. I think they'll go undefeated. But they do not have the schedule. I think they're cakewalking into this playoff, but they don't have the schedule that has tested them necessarily. Will that catch up with them late, or will they be healthy, or will they do this? So many different things going on in here. Getting called a Big Ten homer though in Huntsville, that's badge of honor, Rece. Badge of honor
for an Alabama native.
Yeah. I thought so too, and North Alabama native at that too.
Those guys, good guys down there.
Yeah, and they're good. They're going to be so thrilled that we mentioned them on the podcast too. I think.
So here's an over/under on the season, Rece. In September, Dan tweeted that CJ Carr looked like he could be the number 1 pick in the draft as he was like torching Arkansas. What's the over/under on the number of times Dan retweets that this year as Notre Dame goes undefeated to remind people that he called his shot right? I have to say at least 3.5.
It's the only tweet I made. Only prediction.
Meanwhile, you're also providing Mario Cristobal with all kinds of fodder as Notre Dame cakewalks through, and BYU with a little fodder too. And I think that's a point that I wanted to make about my selection of BYU being my last at-large team in right now. It is completely dependent on the Notre Dame game. I mean, absent them winning the Big 12, which they certainly could do, but as an at-large team. And I don't mean they have to win it. I mean, if they win it, they're going to be in unbelievable shape in terms of the resume. If they play well and lose on a late field goal to a team that maybe Notre Dame's, top 2 or 3, then I think they still have a great case. If they get beat by 2 touchdowns, they're going to have a problem. So it's that game is gargantuan, which I believe is on the 3rd Saturday in October alongside Ohio State and Indiana. So we thought it would probably be entirely too boring to say this is how we have it all stacked up. So let's do two quick things here to wrap this. Who's the most surprising team in your field, Dan? And then give me your final four, who plays for the national championship and who wins it.
I don't know if any of them are surprising. I'm picking UNLV to be the group of 6. Jackson
You're trying to
Arnold.
sell more of your Tark book, Dan? There's always a book angle with Dan.
I'm trying to butter up Rebel fans. Look, if you hate me on this podcast, just go buy a bunch of my books and I'll retire. It's all your fault.
People love you on this podcast.
Read a damn book, people. But more importantly, buy it. I don't care if you read it. Buy it. I just buy them. Just put them in the garage.
How many valedictorians from jail, Dan, are there on this UNLV team? That's your favorite Tark story. There was like a loophole at UNLV. You could get the valedictorian of any high school in. And Tark got a valedictorian from a penitentiary.
I can tell you. I'll tell very quickly because you kind of gave the thing. But yes, there was he was recruiting a guy named Cliff Lee, a Tark back in the day, and he got put. I don't know whatever happened. He ended up in a juvenile detention center in LA, and all the big hitters left that would not recruit this player. And Tark was, still kind of recruiting him, still wanted him, checking the legal. Will he get out? This was back before he pioneered 5-star judges, right? 5-star judges. Like I said, well, you need a judge in Bloomington. I think there's a guy named Bert Bignetti is now a judge in Indiana. We'll make sure. But yeah, he was early on it. And one day they got a new president at UNLV. It was back in the 70s, and he came up with this idea. Said, "Hey, look, doesn't matter what high school you go to in this country. Could be in Vegas, could be in San Francisco, could be in Vermont. If you're the valedictorian, you got a free ride, academic scholarship to UNLV. We're just try to get some smart kids. Any school in the country. You're valedictorian, you're in." Tark goes, "Wait a minute now. What if we make Cliff the valedictorian of the GED program down at the juvenile detention center?" Which his assistants who said, there is no valedictorian of a GED. Why not? Prove that. So they go down they send one of the assistants down, and some palms might have got greased. And sure enough, Cliff becomes the valedictorian of the GED program and he gets sent out. He gets serves his time to society, pays his debt to society, and Tark petitions to the school that he could be an academic scholarship, and that means he could get another kid, right? He could boost the roster. It's like an extra scholarship. So even UNLV in the 70s was like, "Well, hold on now, right? Let's have a here. This doesn't seem right. We do have some standards." And they were going to have a meeting. So what happened to the meeting? He says, "I boosted a car, got sent back in. We lost him." That was it. He recruited, and like Tark went to the juvenile detention center and like talked on the phone through the thing, like through the glass, But yeah, anything's possible with Tark. So by Running Rebel, that would be helpful. No, look, Jackson Arnold. This is it. This is the year. No, Dan Mullen, UNLV, they had it's a good situation. And I think they can go 12-0, 13-0, win the Mountain West, and be that team as the group. So that's my surprise. My other surprise would be I got Oklahoma as like a 3 seed because I think they're going to win the SEC. And most people don't.
Jet Thomas, by the way, toting the rock for the Rebels till they figure out their quarterback situation. He's a big time guy that they held on to.
Is Jackson not the surefire quarterback?
Well, no, Jet's a tailback.
No, what about Jackson Arnold?
They haven't announced Jackson yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's battling with Alex Orji, and we'll see.
Maybe I'm regretting the pick already.
So you could really. One of my rules of picks is don't pick anybody who could just faceplant week 1 and then you look like an idiot. If they faceplant week 6, nobody's really going to remember. Dan did the rare. Picked a team that could faceplant week 0 because they play Memphis, and Memphis is pretty good, and both those teams have like 60 new players, so nobody really knows how good they're going to be, right? So, but yeah, don't think at 1 a.m. I'm not going to fire up our group text if Dan's UNLV pick goes bust at midnight. Yeah,
week 0, I'm out.
Week 0. So that's a sneaky good week 0 game if I've ever seen one, right? If you really love and miss college football, you are delighted to stay up and watch UNLV Memphis. UNLV played Idaho State last year, and Stanford Steve has never been happier because I figured out how to find it on like Amazon Prime. It was on like the mountain, and nobody could find it. And I put it on Twitter, and I was like the hero, the degenerate hero of the day on Twitter. Might have been my best journalism that I executed for ESPN last year. I just remember Stanford Steve was like, "Yes, thank God." It's like, okay. My two modest surprises. We'll call it I'll do my CJ Carr pat on the back here. Last year, I included Indiana in my field, and that gave me the value of doing something a little different, right? So I'm going to pick BYU to win the Big 12. All right. I think they're going to go on and they're going to win the Big 12. I can't tell you they're going to beat Notre Dame, but I think they have enough firepower on offense and a really underrated salty defense to win that league, to go to Arlington and get revenge, assuming that's against Texas Tech. My G6 pick is Navy. A lot of guys back on the offensive line. Feel good about Braxton Woodson at quarterback there. 10-3 2 years ago, 11-2 last year. Brian Newberry very quietly has pushed them into like really high-end territory for Navy. Continuity is a competitive advantage in a league. You look at the AAC and in the Pac-12, and these are awesome leagues with good teams. Anyone who tells you with conviction, they know like, oh yeah, that team's good. Like, whew, man, there is not a lot of continuity in those spots. So those are my two modest wild cards that I have in my field.
Okay. And what if they played Army and then had to turn around and play coming off that and then play a playoff game the following week? I'm going to go. I was going back and forth between UTSA and Boise State. I'll go safe with that one and go Boise State. The team in the field.
UTSA, huh?
Yeah, maybe. I'm going to go Boise
Owen
State.
McCown?
But yeah, Owen McCown's back, so I'll give them a shot for sure. If they win that league, they might be the highest ranked team. I don't know if this is a massive surprise, but it's going to alleviate a lot of pressure. I believe in Jaden Mayava. I've got USC making the field too. So I think SC will be in the playoffs, and that's the moderate surprise. So the Final Four, I'll go ahead and start this. I've got Notre Dame playing Georgia in one semifinal, Indiana playing Texas in the other semifinal. I then have Notre Dame playing Texas and Notre Dame beating Texas to win the national championship. What say you, Dan Wetzel?
I've got Oregon playing Miami, and I've got Notre Dame playing Ohio State. The SEC doesn't make final games. They don't.
Oh, that's right. That's my first mistake there.
No, that's what I got right now. I think I like all four of those teams. Are we picking the winner?
Yeah, pick the winner.
I got Oregon winning it all. I think that is going to be a huge year for Dante Moore. You've just got the returning talent. This is an experienced team. It's a hungry team, hungry program after a couple tough. They've run into buzzsaws in the playoffs. I think it's all there for Oregon to win the national championship. So I'm going to pick the Ducks to win it all, but that's my Final Four.
Well, I am, as I've declared on many podcasts already, so I certainly can't go back on it. I am Team Sig. I'm smoking my Marlboro Reds in Bloomington, is sitting on the porch of my pig house, rooting on the Indiana Hoosiers. So I'm gonna have Indiana, Georgia in a semi, and Notre Dame, Ohio State in another semi. And I am gonna go with an all Big Ten final of Indiana, Ohio State. Hoosiers and Bucks rematch in Vegas on June 25th or January 25th? What day is the title game? I forget, Rece.
It's right now January, might be June by the time we get there.
Final
finish
Four?
Expanding. Yeah, it'll be like a great doubleheader. It'll be right there. You do the Final Four, and then later on you'll have
we can go to the sports book and watch
game. Exactly.
UConn or something. Yeah.
Now, as Dan pointed out early, there are teams that come from nowhere to make the field. 2024, it was Indiana. If there is a team out there, and if you like that model, established coach, veteran quarterback, core guys, a lot of core guys coming with them, favorable schedule within the conference, I encourage you to keep an eye on Penn State. And I'll say this, if Penn State, Dan, somehow makes the playoff. I know they've been in the playoff just 2 years ago, but they make this change and they do this and make the playoff. I don't know that you can properly measure the high that they would be on in Nittanyville.
Well,
I see what you did there.
Yeah, well, they know a few things about high down there in Penn State, apparently, after this is just such a great story. The fraternity cocaine trafficking ring at Penn State. Yes. 14 players charged, current former students. It was out of a fraternity. They were using the pledge class to like cut the dope. I think it was the Barksdale organization out of Baltimore. Supply chain management majors, I think they were. Just trying to, you spent a winter in state college, you might need a bump every once in a while.
What was the ringleader's? What's the ringleader's nickname?
They named him because he was a fraternity leader, an accounting major. He was named Pablo Pledgekabar.
This is not a funny thing.
I saw Snow Paterno banging around on Twitter. I can't give proper credit because I don't remember. But
it's
we are going to need lawyers.
This is
the whiteout has a whole new definition, right?
Whiteout.
Oh my goodness. This is such a terrible thing that's happened and lives have been upended, yet it is so ridiculous and bizarre that you almost can't help but laugh at it. You're like, this cannot be real. This has to be some made up, low budget college movie that's made about, something like this. It can't be real. And yet it is.
They were using Venmo to move the money, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, you got to read the documents. It's incredible. Venmo. Guys, come on now. Like you got to
Were
meet
they
under
putting
a
snowflakes as like the Venmo emoji? Like if I said Dan money for beer, I put like a beer emoji. Were they using snowflakes? Or nose, like the nose emoji?
Nose, snowflake and nose. You guys even watch The Sopranos or The Wire or anything? See, this is the problem. HBO's not putting out these shows anymore, and these young kids are just messing it all up. I highly advise not running an interstate cocaine distribution network.
Yes. I think we can all agree on that.
I think that's one of the, we used to say there's nothing in America everyone agrees on other than like don't do fentanyl. Like pretty much universal. There's not too many people be like, well, what about this? I need to study the question a little more, do my own research. No, don't. But if you're going to do it, don't do it while you already have a promising career as an accounting graduate from Penn State. Just move to Philadelphia and make a bunch of money that way. But if you're going to do it, please do not use the pledge class. They're not exactly like, the soldiers of the the Gambino family. They're not going to really be worried. And watch this, meet under bridges and, do your discussions that way. Do not Venmo each other, Snapchat. The damn FBI didn't have to work on this. This is too easy. These guys just confessed.
When they make the movie about this, how are they going to recreate the Animal House scene? Is that a pledge pin on your uniform? Is that a pledge pin on your coveralls?
I mean, we got a guy. He purchased the cocaine on Snapchat.
Jeez.
I mean, this is just. There's a lot of great things about our young people. They're smarter. This is not. We're not trying to bash. They got like a rivalry going with the millennials or something. I don't know. And I know they'll tell you about their affordability crisis. This is not the answer. This is not the answer.
It is not.
If you think housing costs a lot, well, it is. The house you're getting is going to be free. You'll get 3 hots on a cot, no charge. But not really ideal place to live. But a fantastic story out of Penn State. The drug dealing fraternity has been busted.
anything, Dan, you think I'm going to go to State College next week to go to football practice? Anything you want me to look into there? Any boots on the ground there?
Oh, yeah. Pete hears about cocaine and all of a sudden he's running to I got to get down there. Penn State practice. That's your excuse?
Well, economics, Dan, as we've talked about, there's a market need, right?
There's
supply
a market
and demand.
Need. It
the
is
supply is
and
gone.
Demand. People were buying it. Yeah, people were buying it. So yeah.
Why is Pete wearing cargo shorts at practice?
Introduction to Columbian Economics 101 is a popular class, apparently.
You should have been a cartel accountant, Dan. You were miscast.
I really was.
Well, maybe there's always a chance. Always a chance when they make the movie. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Download this wherever you prefer to get your podcast. Subscribe and never miss a single episode. And to try to provide a little bit of balance to our mockery of a serious yet absurd and somehow still hilarious story, I call to mind the words of my late great friend and the last Notre Dame coach to win the national championship, Lou Holtz. There's never a wrong time to do the right thing, and there's never a right time to do the wrong thing. Just say no, Penn State kids. Just say no.